Slendy, Ego, Slendy, hey. Hit it up the park. Hit it with a strike. From the national anthem to the bottom of the night. I'm in Slendy, Ego, Slendy, Ego, Slendy, Ego, Slendy, hey. You already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. But you know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to episode 437 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden with you here. It is August 2nd, 2023, and the San Diego Padres just took 2 out of 3 from the Colorado Rockies. They are now a game under 500. They're making that climb right back up to being to 500. They haven't been 500 in a long time. They're making that climb, trying to get up to a postseason spot. There's time left to do it. And I think they got to keep playing really good baseball. And if they keep taking 2 out of 3, that's not going to happen every series. But if they do that for the most part, get some sweeps, then they will probably be in the postseason. So that's how we start the show today. A lot to talk about. Padres Rockies here, discussing this series win for the Padres. Do you think that they're back? Do you believe in this team? We can talk more about the trade deadline and some of the additions that the Padres made in case you missed the trade deadline reaction show yesterday. And obviously questions, comments, I will get to all those from you Padres fans. Make sure I get to your comment, your question by using that super chat button. You can join the show as well. Click that link that is pinned up at the top of the chat if you want to come on and give some of your Padres thoughts or have any questions that you want to give to me on the show. I was just waiting for some people to get into the live stream here. Just a reminder, code Talking Friars for $20 off your SeatGeek order. You can click that link that is in the description. For Breaking Tea, great San Diego sports swag, the Breaking Tea link there. San Diego Padres, Aztecs, San Diego State Aztecs, San Diego Wave. They play this weekend against Angel City. So this weekend's going to be fun. It's a real San Diego versus LA rivalry weekend for San Diego sports with the Wave and with the San Diego Padres. And both LA teams are going to be coming to San Diego for those games. So should be entertaining this weekend. All right, let's see what some people in the comments are thinking here just as we get started. Post-game reaction, someone asks. I did have that up. It should be up already on the channel. So just go check that out when you have a chance. Jack says Garcia should have been DFA'd, not Honeywell. I don't think you're the only Padres fan that has that opinion after watching today again, him loading the bases. Now, credit to him. He got out of it. But, yeah, he still loaded the bases. Wasn't great. Devin asks, do you think Sanchez is the best catcher the Padres have ever had? Oh, man. He's definitely been influential in a positive manner for the Padres. That's for sure. I think he's going to have to do it for a longer sample size to have that title, but he's not competing with a ton of great names. There's not a Yadi Molina, right, that he has to compete with. There have been some good catchers, but, since 2000 is he the best catcher. I think more of a sample size is still needed, but yeah, he's been really good. He's performing like the Gary Sanchez with the New York Yankees, not the Gary Sanchez that was, I think, DFA'd earlier this year by the New York Mets. And that's how the Padres were able to claim him. I think they claimed him off waivers. He's performing like the better version of Gary, not that version, right? And kind of like the version that he was with the Minnesota Twins. If you remember Gary Sanchez with the Minnesota Twins, kind of helped you out there on the immaculate grid. So if you have a Twins Yankees or Twins Mets or Yankees Mets, Gary Sanchez is an option. Or if you include the Padres in that, he's an option there. Speaking of another immaculate grid, great name to know, Rich Hill. If you don't know a player on the immaculate grid game, just guess Rich Hill, and you probably have a decent shot of getting that correct. And Rich Hill, I bring him up because he is expected to start during this Dodgers series. Kevin Acee, it was weird in his article today before the game in his notes thing. He said at one point he was expected to start on Sunday at Petco, but then he also said on Monday. So I don't know. One of the last two games of the series is what it seems like. He's tentatively scheduled to pitch. And Joe Musgrove, he is probably not going to pitch. I saw that in the Seattle Mariners series is probably when he's going to pitch again. He was scratched today, obviously, with the shoulder stuff. Shoulder soreness, I think is what the Padres labeled it as. And so Nick Martinez took over, pitched really well. He ended up going 3 innings. On pregame thoughts, I was like, maybe he works into the 4th. I was a little ambitious on that. He ended up going 3. I guess the plan was only for him to go 2 innings, but he was pitching so well, and he told Bomel, was like, yeah, I want a 3rd inning. So he got that 3rd inning. Then Ray Kerr comes in to the game, and yeah, he had the bases loaded at one point, but he ends up striking out 6 guys in this outing. Sure, walk 3 guys, but limits the damage, only gives up 1 run, 2 1/3 innings from him, 56 pitches. I think that has to be the most pitches that he's thrown at the big league level yet for the Padres. And then Scott Barlow, we got to see the debut of Scott Barlow with the Padres, obviously coming over yesterday on deadline day from the Kansas City Royals. He pitches an inning and 2/3, doesn't give up any runs, doesn't give up any hits. Struck out 3 guys, doesn't give up any walks, and so lowers his ERA to 5.13. Now, that's not a great ERA, but I don't really care what he did in the past this season for the Royals. I just care that he pitches well for the Padres now. And if he pitches like he did in 2021 and 2022 with the Kansas City Royals, I think we're going to be pretty okay with Scott Barlow. And he was pitching in the 6th inning today. That's when he started that outing, I believe. So imagine the Padres have Barlow in the 6th, Wilson or Cosgrove in the 7th, and then you can have Suarez and Hader in the 8th and the 9th. That didn't happen today. Cosgrove pitched after Barlow. Garcia pitched the 9th, loaded the bases, ended up getting out of it. But I understand Padres fans being annoyed with Luis Garcia continuing to be on the roster. And, Brent Honeywell, it's not like he's been pitching great either as of late. I think he had a good start to the season, but he has not been able to continue that and be that consistent since then. But Garcia, it feels like the Padres believe in his talent more, and so that's why he was kept on the roster, I'd imagine, today, and Honeywell ended up being designated for assignment. But the pitching for today's game in this blowout win, obviously the offense is going to get a lot of attention, but the pitching was great. A couple bullpen games in this series for the Padres. Pedro Avila starts yesterday. There has to be a spot starter in Nick Martinez today. And they didn't have to use Suarez. They didn't have to use Josh Hader. They didn't have to use Steven Wilson today. So now those guys get a couple days off before the Dodgers series, which I think is important. Because regardless of if it's the Dodgers or not, you still got to keep winning ball games. The Padres, they're still under 500. Only a game under 500. They're not like 8 games under like they were at one point this season. They're not 5 or 3, 1 game, so they're playing better baseball. But still, the results are the results. The stats are the stats. The standings are the standings. And they have made some ground, but they're still like 4 games back, I want to say, of that last wild card spot. So they're going to have to keep winning games. And even if they get a hold of a wild card spot, they might not keep that, right? So they're going to have to play really good baseball, bottom line, the rest of the year, I'd imagine. Over 600 baseball. And this is a good start to it. They're playing better baseball. Offensively today, tremendous performance. I mean, right out of the gate, Ha-Seong Kim goes deep. And that was his 15th home run of the year. Soto in the 3rd hits a 449-foot bomb second deck, his 23rd home run of the year. He hits 2 home runs yesterday, a home run today. And in August, his OPS is like insane in his career. It's over, I think, 1,200. And he's continuing that trend here in the month of August. So hopefully that continues for Juan. Gary Sanchez, he had his first home run of the day in the top of the 6th, made it 4-1. Gary hit his second home run of the day in the 9th inning, made it 5-1. Tatis, his 100th career home run, which was hit pretty well. Almost went foul, but it was fair. That's all that matters. That made it 8-1. There was some more insurance added on. Crony and Gary came through with some more hits. And the Padres, they end up winning this one today, 11-1. And we should not expect this from the Padres every day, right? This is Colorado. It's a little bit different of a circumstance, obviously, and it's right after the deadline. So the Rockies, they're not as good of a team as they were, obviously, before the deadline, but it's still encouraging, right? They still have the talent. We know they have the talent in there to produce games like this. Maybe if this was at Petco Park, maybe they score 7 runs instead of 11. I don't know. But some of those balls were still going to be home runs at Petco Park. If the games this series were at Petco, So I'm seeing some encouraging signs, but as I said in my post-game reaction, I still am going to hold the belief that I don't think this team's going to go all the way. I just don't see that this year with this Padres team. But that's me. It's not really me reacting to today's game. Scott Barlow pitched great. Me with that opinion, it's me not seeing how these new guys are going to fit into this Padres team. And it's me seeing the close games that they have lost this season and being winless in extra inning games. And the sample size, again, right? They're playing better baseball as of late, but the sample size overall this season tells me that this team is not going to go all the way. Now, they could make the postseason, but I just don't see them going all the way. But you could also say if they make the postseason, Ben, they're going to be playing really good baseball, and that's all that matters as you head into that stretch there at the end of the year and going into the postseason. The hot team is the team that goes and wins the World Series. So, if they make the postseason, then I think that they could go all the way. But as of now, if this makes sense, I just don't believe that they will. It's kind of like you got to prove me wrong, right? And until you prove me wrong, I'm right. Right. At the beginning of the year, I know it's weird because at the beginning of the year, I believed in the team. It's early, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then they didn't turn it around. And then I flipped my viewpoint. This team should sell. I don't believe in them. So maybe they're going to make me flip my viewpoint again because things do change. Right. We're allowed to change our opinions. We're allowed to change based on evidence. Right. I could switch right back to where I was at the beginning of the year thinking that this team could go all the way. But as of now, I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon thinking that this team's going to, go to the World Series all of a sudden because they have a good series against the Colorado Rockies. It wasn't that long of a time ago where they lost that series to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Earlier this year, they've lost series to the Royals, went 2-7 in a stretch against the Nationals, Pirates, and Reds, right? So it's kind of like, prove me wrong, right? But these last couple games, really this series overall, it was a good series. Today they win 11-1. Yesterday they win 8-5. Monday it was a really disappointing ending to that game. But at the end of the day, they won the series, and that's what they need to keep doing. They got to keep winning series. They're not going to win every series the rest of the way. That's an unrealistic expectation, but they've got to win more than they lose for sure. And I still maintain this thought. They're going to have to go on a winning streak at some point. It's not going to be, I don't think, because like I said, they're not going to take 2 out of 3 the rest of the way in every series or 3 out of 4 against the Dodgers this weekend. They're not going to take 3 out of 4. I don't see that happening the rest of the way this season. So the win streak, it's going to have to come. The big run in them, it's going to have to come to offset what they did at the beginning of this season, the first 100-plus games, and some of the series losses that they will have, because it's not like it's the easiest schedule here the rest of the way. And even if it was an easier schedule, I put that in quotes, air quotes, if it was an easier schedule, they might not even do that good. They might do worse with an easier schedule. So maybe it's a good thing, but it's still tough teams coming up. And they're just going to have to keep playing good baseball. That's what it is at the end of the day. I did want to discuss some of the moves here that the Padres made before this game. They were interesting. Definitely. They were interesting for sure. So I'll get to those moves here after this quick break. Check out Gaglione Bros' famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries on Friars Road. You can visit their website, gaglionebros.com, for their entire menu and enjoy their cheesesteaks and fries at Petco Park and Snapdragon Stadium as well. Okay, so on Wednesday before this series finale against the Colorado Rockies, we knew that moves were going to be coming. The Padres had to make room for Scott Barlow, G-Man Choi, and Garrett Cooper. Those guys ended up being on the bench, and then Rich Hill will end up being activated when he starts his first time with the Padres, right? You don't want to have a spot be open or, leave a spot open for him, take up a roster spot while he's not going to pitch until probably sometime during the Dodger series, right? So I think he went to San Diego. The other guys came to Colorado. And in order to make room for those guys, some guys had to be moved. Some guys had to be sent down, taken off the active 26-man roster. And some of the moves were interesting. Definitely a couple guys that remained on the roster were interesting to me. And I'll get to those here in a second. So here's what happened. So Choi, Cooper, Barlow, they get activated. And Ray Kerr, he gets activated. Tim Hill goes on the IL. So Kerr replacing Tim Hill, right? Tim Hill sprained left ring finger. Hill put on the 15-day IL. Brett Sullivan was optioned, which makes sense because you're adding Choi, you're adding Cooper, guys that can DH. And so that means that Campy can just be the backup catcher or Sanchez can just be the backup catcher instead of having to be in the lineup every day. So, okay, I can see why Sully was optioned. Brent Honeywell was DFA'd, and some say, why Honeywell over Garcia? I think the answer is the Padres just believe in Luis Garcia turning it around more than they do in Brent Honeywell, because both are, I believe, would be free agents at the end of the year, because Honeywell signed on, I think it was a minor league deal. It might have been a major league deal, but I think it was a 1-year contract. Luis Garcia, he's a free agent at the end of the season. So they're in the same contract situation. Garcia's making more money, I believe, because his was an actual 2-year major league deal when he came here. But I think they believe in Garcia's upside, his talent. They think he'll turn it around more than Brent Honeywell. The two moves I didn't get, or the two players staying on the roster that I didn't get. Matt Carpenter staying on the roster and Pedro Avila. Let's start with Matt Carpenter first. Matt Carpenter, he's hitting under 180 this season. He plays first base, he plays DH, right? What did the Padres just acquire at the deadline? A couple first basemen and guys that can DH as well. And they already have Jake Cronenworth who can play first base and can DH if you absolutely need him to, right? So why is Matt Carpenter continuing to be on this roster? Is it because of the contract? I think Peter Seidler can afford to cut bait and pay for the contract. He's paying for Eric Hosmer's contract right now, right? The Padres don't have a fourth outfielder. You can say it's Matthew Batten, but we know that he is an infielder. So why not bring up someone like Ben Gamel or Taylor Colway to be the fourth outfielder so you actually have someone that can go in if, I don't know, Grish gets hurt and you need a corner outfielder, someone that can play the outfield is their main position. Bring someone up to do that and DFA Matt Carpenter. Get Matt Carpenter off the team because he's not serving a purpose other than Austin Nola was serving a purpose when he wasn't playing in meetings, I guess, which we don't see. It's not an impact on the field, him physically being on the field. He's not getting that bats. He looks like a coach down there getting paid millions of dollars to watch baseball. Got to be a cool gig, right? So that don't understand why Matt Carpenter's still on the roster. And Pedro Avila, he just threw over 80 pitches in the second game of that Colorado series. So why keep him on the roster when you could continue to have Brent Honeywell on the roster instead of DFAing him? Why keep him on the roster when he's not going to be available at least until at some point this weekend, right? Because he threw over 80 pitches. And I believe Pedro Avila still has one option remaining, so you can use that option there. I don't understand keeping Avila on the roster. You're wasting a roster spot for a few days in days that you probably need to win, right? You're in a wild card race. Matt Carpenter, when's the last time he played? When's the last time he hit a home run, right? He's not bringing anything on the field physically to this club. You just got a first baseman and DH, two guys that can play both. Crony can do that. Why is he on the roster still? So those two moves, or those two players continuing to be on the roster, that doesn't make sense. Maybe they make a roster move before the Dodger series coming up this weekend, before Friday's game, or sometime during the weekend. But that was kind of weird. I found that weird that those guys stayed on the roster. Matt Carpenter continuing to survive. It reminds me of Austin Nola. He continued to survive there for a little bit, and then ultimately they ended up, taking him off when Campy returned. But yeah, that was weird to me. All right, now that I got that off of my chest, Tuesday's game, Padres win this one 8-5. Pedro Avila, 4 innings of work, over 80 pitches, like I just said. 3 walks, 7 punch-outs, an earned run, 5 hits. Stranded the bases loaded in the first. First inning there, I was like, okay, wow. Bases loaded. This ain't looking good. But he got out of it. Allowed 1 run only, so limited the damage, like Ray Kerr was able to limit the damage today. Stranded runners on first and second in the second inning there. And it was valuable because it saved some of the bullpen for today. And you just weren't expecting a whole lot from Pedro Avila. So the fact that he gave 4 innings and gave up 1 run, I'm taking that every day of the week from Pedro Avila. Top of the 5th, Padres, they get a run on a ground out with the bases loaded. Soto then hits that 3-run home run, which was to dead center. He then hits another home run later in the ball game, also to center. That one was in the 8th. That made it 6-4. Soto entering Tuesday's game, I think a 1,021 OPS in the month of August in his career. Best OPS among any month. So if that continues, I see the Padres continuing to win some games. Because Juan Soto, I know he can't do it himself, but he's one of the big hitters in this lineup. And if he can continue doing this, their chances of winning, their run production, scoring runs, it goes up. He provides a very big positive impact to this team when he's going on well there. In the 7th, so, the Rockies, they ended up getting back in this game. It was 5-4 after Steven Wilson allowed that home run. Honeywell allowed a couple runners. Obviously gets DFA'd the morning after. But Soto, that home run, right, in the 8th, gave him insurance. Grish, Kim, they come through with RBI singles, makes it 8-4 Padres. And Colorado, they added a run. Hader had to be brought in, so that was not the most ideal thing, but it wasn't the end of the world because he didn't pitch the night before. And even if he pitched today, it was going to be okay because there was a day off between the Dodgers series and the Rockies series on Thursday. So you obviously wish that Hader didn't pitch, but looking back at it now, it's kind of like it's good that he did pitch because he got some work. He's not going to be sitting there for 4 days or whatever it was going to be if he didn't pitch yesterday. Because if the same thing happened today, obviously they probably wouldn't have pitched him because it's a blowout, right? So Padres win yesterday, 8-5. What I got out of yesterday was definitely Juan Soto. He is locked in, and you got that out of him today as well. That was one of the takeaways from today's game as well. Same thing with Gary Sanchez with a couple home runs that he had today. And another takeaway today, obviously, was the pitching, like I mentioned earlier. So last couple games of this series were really encouraging. A combined 19 runs in the last 2 games of this series. But that's the Padres for you, right? Really disappointing loss in game 1 of the series. Then they come up with 2 really great offensive performances. They look like the best offensive team on planet Earth. Now what are they going to do when they come back home and they have to face the Dodgers? Because obviously we know the Dodgers, they're better than the Colorado Rockies are. So it's about consistency. If they split this Dodger series, I don't know if I'm going to be pissed off. I guess it probably depends on how the games play out. But taking 3 out of 4 would definitely instill more confidence in the fan base, I think, and instill more confidence in myself. I'm not even going to talk about possibly 4 out of 4 because that's not going to happen. I just don't see that happening. Okay, so those were the first 2 games, but right before the deadline, right, we didn't know the moves the Padres were making. Were they going to just stand pat after Monday night's loss? Because they didn't deserve to win that game, and so maybe they didn't deserve to be buyers. But Peter, AJ, they have faith in this team, so they were going to buy. And we can get to the deadline, more deadline talk in a little bit. But on Monday, I mean, no doubt about it, it was a disappointing loss for sure. It may have been, was it the worst loss of the year? Maybe some people in the comments will think of some other games. I know giving up that home run, right, to Mookie Betts and the Dodgers go win in extras on Sunday Night Baseball, that sucked because that started, ever since then, like the Padres, they really struggled to be consistent, right? The whole Kershaw meme thing after they won, then they didn't win the rest of the series, I believe. I could point to like the Reds game, was it the first game of that Red series in Cincinnati, where they get a lead and then they choke it. They get a lead, they choke it. They get a lead, and then the Reds go and walk it off. There was the Kansas City Royals series finale at home where Grish struck out, I remember, was it the bases loaded? I forget if it was the bases loaded or not. There was that game, losing that series to the freaking Royals. When Scott Barlow was on the other side of things, obviously, he was on the winning side in that series. There was the recent game, it was the Pirates, right? Where it was a similar situation. Padres, they bait you back in, they tease you. Oh, maybe they're going to come back and win this game, be a good series win. But then Grish ends up striking out. I think it was either Colway or Batten. He was a pinch hitter before Grish. I think he popped up. That was when Soto was available off the bench. They were going to give him a day off, and they had him pinch hit. He walks, and they couldn't end up winning that game. They scored a run. They lose by 1. So my point, obviously, there's been some painful losses, but Monday for sure was up there because of the opportunities they had. There's the long rain delay. It was such a long night. It was such a long night for me personally because maybe some can't relate because they didn't watch the U.S. Women's National Team live, but I'm just a huge U.S. Women's National Team fan. And obviously the World Cup's on now, huge Padres fan. So I'm watching everything. And there's some Wave connections because I work with the Wave and Germa, Morgan, they play for the Wave. So I'm obviously rooting them on. So I'm staying up all night. There's the rain delay, which was over an hour. Then there's the game, which felt like it took 5 hours to complete. Then there's like an hour. I'm not going to go take a nap. There's like an hour. So I work out then. And before the U.S. Women's National Team starts, watch that. Both of those games were painful to watch because the Padres, they lose that game, obviously. And then the U.S., they can't score a goal against Portugal, and they were literally inches away from losing in the group stage. Thank goodness for that post that saved them. I gave a reaction to that game on, what was that, Tuesday morning at like 2:30 in the morning after that game ended. So you can go back and look at the playlist, go to San Diego Wave on the YouTube channel. You'll see that reaction there. But yeah, it was a long night. And Lugo got the start. It was huge that he went 7 innings. It was. Because you didn't know what was coming later in the series, right? And just giving the bullpen a little bit more rest. It's huge. 7 innings for Lugo, 5 hits allowed, 3 runs, 9 punch-outs, 3 walks. He had 2 walks in the 7th inning. Padres, they gave Lugo a lead, top of the 4th. Crony had an RBI single to center. There was, what part of what was so maddening about Monday was because they did have that lead, and then Lugo fumbled that grounder, threw it to Bogey. It was a bad throw. Bogey drops it. Could have been a double play. He gets an out later in the inning. Could have been out of the inning. They end up giving up 2 runs there. I believe the Rockies took a 2-1 lead at that point. So it was like, okay, there's one mistake that you're going to have to overcome. Montero was the one that got the double. Then in the 6th, Ryan McMahon, who's like now the new Charlie Blackmon, it's his turn to torment the Padres for the remainder of his Rockies career. McMahon homers, 3-1 Rockies. Batten singles on a ground ball to center. Crony scores, makes it 3-2. So they're in it. But it felt like the game was over, especially after Juan Soto. He is the game-tying run. And Matt Williams, I think it was in the 7th inning, right? No, 8th. Top of the 8th. Soto's the game-tying run. He's on second. Single to center. The center fielder Soto hadn't even gotten to third. The center fielder already had fielded the ball. And Matt Williams sends Juan Soto. There was no stop sign that I saw. If there was a stop sign, again, as I've said earlier on this channel, Matt Williams would have been farther down the line. At least that's what I would have done. Be farther down the line so Soto can visually see you saying stop, 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 hold, hold, hold. Right? There wasn't that. Williams was standing right by third base, and Soto just kept going. Head down, kept going. So I assume Williams was the one that sent him. And Baumel, I think, confirmed that in the post-game press conference. Soto obviously gets thrown out by a million feet. And it's like, what are you doing? Why is Matt Williams sending Juan Soto there? Is he watching the same game that we are? Again, Soto was not even at third base at that point when Matt Williams decides to send him. And he wasn't at third base when the center fielder already had the ball. And Baumel, I think, tried to explain it away, like, oh, the rain, maybe he makes a bad throw, slippery, all that. Grish had some trouble getting to a ball earlier in the game, but I think you got to have some feel there. You'd have a runner on third there in the 8th inning down by 1. Take your chances with that instead of sending Juan Soto, who's not Fernando. Like, let's not act like this guy's Flash, whoever that dude is. And it was just a bad decision. It was just so stupid. And so it's like, okay, so Lugo, the Bogarts thing, right? Then the base running, sending him. Then Grish miraculously has the home run to tie it up. And in the 10th inning, Padres have the bases loaded. Bases are loaded with nobody out. Maybe we shouldn't have been surprised by what happened. They don't score a run with the bases loaded and nobody out in the 10th inning. Soto gets on, Manny gets on, not hard hit balls. Bogarts grounds out to second, like infield in, like that's the one place you can't hit it, and that's where he hits it. Brad Hand comes into the game, left on left matchup with Crony. Crony lines out. You can't do anything about it, but again, the results are the results. That's all that matters here. Gary Sanchez rolls over, grounds out. Rockies, they get to go walk it off in the 10th inning on a sac fly. And Manny in the 10th inning, by the way, bottom 10, Manny ends up dropping or tagging a guy. He would have been out, right? He ends up dropping that ball, and that runner, I believe, was the one that ended up scoring. Or actually, did he end up scoring or... Yeah, Brenton Doyle. He was the one that ended up scoring. He's the guy that was at third base on that play. So it was just so many opportunities that the Padres had to not mess up, to not F up. And that's what they did on Monday. So maybe it's that thought in my head where it's just like, yeah, it's hard to fully get behind this team and believe that this team is back after a series against the Rockies. Haven't even seen Garrett Cooper, G-Man Choi, what they're going to do with the Padres. I want to see them do it against the Dodgers. I want to see them do it for the month of August. Have a winning record in the month of August. Get over 500. Be right there in the wild card race instead of being, 4 games back, whatever they are now. Have a bigger sample size. And then I can start to buy in. But now I'm still going to hold the same opinion that I just don't see this team going all the way. And it's going to be really tough for this team to make the postseason. I see Carter in here. What's up, Carter? Any Padres thoughts? What about, we're hitting on, or I was hitting on Monday's game. Was that, do you think, the worst loss of the season so far?
It's up there for sure. Because that Royal Series I'd mentioned to you about was probably the worst. I mean, before I talk about anything, thanks for having me again.
Yeah.
And sorry I talk a lot, but I think this was a good series for us, just to show who we are. But I thought taking 2 out of 3 was good, especially beating the Rockies. But I heard that I'm sure you heard about this, but I heard that Fernando hit his 100th career home run.
Yeah, his 100th career home run, and I did want to mention that. So he is the, what did they say, the fourth? I have it here. The fourth fastest player to get to 100 home runs behind Ryan Howard, Pete Alonso, and Gary Sanchez. So,
Wow.
and that was when Gary was obviously playing really well with the Yankees. And I'm seeing flashes of that here with the Padres with Gary. But yeah, and obviously in the comments, when I post the video of Tatis going deep, or Major League Baseball posts the video of Tatis going deep, there's all like, oh, well, he was on steroids for half of those or whatever.
Yep.
Just fans wanting to be trolls. But yeah, we know he's a really talented player. And I don't know, my mind just always goes back to, I know this is random, but just back to last year. What if Tatis was healthy? What would have happened last year? Getting eliminated in the NLCS. He's someone that should probably get some MVP votes if he continues playing like this year. Will he?
Absolutely.
Don't know about that, because there's some voters that obviously are going to hold that grudge against Tatis, and they're going to keep penalizing him, even though he's not cheating this year. It's just the way it goes. But yeah, he's having a phenomenal year so far.
I was going to ask you, what do you think of the? I'm sure you've gotten this asked before, but what do you think of the moves we made during the deadline? I thought it was a W. I thought getting Scott Barlow was awesome, dude.
Yeah,
He dominated today too.
Yeah, Pedro, I see you, so I'll get to you here in a minute. The deadline moves. I think I'm someone that wanted this team to sell. I didn't think it was the smartest thing to keep Snell, keep Hader. They could have got a good amount back for those guys. I wasn't someone that wanted to trade Soto, but I thought it was smartest to keep those guys. You still have a talented roster, even without those guys, and you just see what happens. But knowing that they weren't going to sell, and I thought that they did a good job. Standing pat doesn't help the Padres win. So improve on the margins. Don't go trade your top 5 prospects. They didn't do that, right? I was okay with them parting with Ryan Weathers, Jackson Wolf, whatever. We'll see what that 18-year-old or not even 18-year-old ends up being there, who I think he was playing in rookie ball, Suero. We'll see what he ends up being. But I thought, you improve the bullpen depth and you get a replacement for Josh Hader, because I don't see him coming back after next season. So Scott Barlow, he pitched really well today, and hopefully Niebla can help him out and be more consistent, get back to how he was pitching in 21 and 22 with the Royals. You add some bench depth, some bats that should be on the roster the rest of the year and should be replacing Matt Carpenter. Don't know why Matt Carpenter's still on the freaking roster. G-Man Choi, he doesn't have a big sample size this year, but I was looking at some of the barrel rates, and that's encouraging. He can play first, can play, obviously, DH, and same thing with Garrett Cooper. And it wasn't just a lefty, he got a righty as well. And this allows Gary or Campy to be the backup catcher and not have to tax themselves every day being in the lineup. And you can just ride the catcher that's hot at the plate. Or you can just go the matchups where Snell, Musgrove, they like catching to they like throwing to a certain guy, and the others can go to Campy. That can give rest to guys instead of fully taxing someone if they're playing really well. So, I think that the moves were solid, and we'll see what that one prospect that they got back along with Garrett Cooper ends up being. I think he throws upper 90s and used to be a position player. So we'll see how that how he develops and how he ends up doing in AAA. But they did what they should have done. Improve on the margins. Not go. You didn't have to go take on the Verlander contract or make a huge trade like that. This team, I don't think, deserves that, and I don't think that's the smartest thing to do. But yeah, just improve on the margins. You gave a little bit of a boost, I think, to the clubhouse, but it also sends a message like, it's on the players that are already in that clubhouse. Like, sure, Rich Hill with starting pitching depth and the batters and Barlow, sure, they can help the team. They'll probably help the team. But, the stars are the ones that are going to carry this team to the postseason. The guys that are already in the rotation, that's going to carry them to the postseason. Suarez and Hader and Wilson and Cosgrove, like the bulk guys, the bulk of the back end of that bullpen, right? Those guys are going to carry them to the postseason. So, I thought it was a positive deadline. Preller, he wasn't stupid. He wasn't stupid
Yeah,
with.
you did a good job.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Anything else, Carter?
Yeah, one more thing. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. I feel kind of bad, Ben.
No, you're good.
I think I heard that we designated Honeywell for assignment, so I think instead of designating him for assignment, I think we should have designated Garcia or Carpenter or whatever. But
Yeah, you're not the only person that thinks that. Yeah. Because Garcia, obviously, I think, obviously recency bias is there too. Both guys aren't pitching that great. I mean, Garcia, I saw in Kevin Acey's newsletter this morning, since June 11th, he has a 6.23 ERA.
oh my gosh.
And that's before, well, he didn't give up any runs today, but that was before he loaded the bases again today. So yeah, he hasn't been good. Honeywell, I forget the numbers on that, but AC did post that, but he's off the roster, so whatever. I think it just comes down to who do the Padres believe in more, because I think both would be free agents at the end of the year anyway. So who do they believe in more? And I guess they're going to go with Luis Garcia over Brent Honeywell. I think both could have been kept, to be honest, because Pedro Avila could have just been taken off the roster because he threw over 80 pitches yesterday. So just send him back down. He has an option. That didn't make sense to keep him on the roster, but that's what they did.
Yep.
All right. Thanks so much, Carter. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Of course. See ya. All right. We got Pedro just going in line here with who joined. Matt, I'll get to you here in a little bit. Pedro, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up? I'll keep it short and simple. Hey, nice seeing you again, and hopefully your mental health's doing good out there. Everybody, at least I got kids, and I was a little league coach, so for like the first half of the season, I was kind of distracted.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was trying to pay attention, and I was like blaming Bob Melvin, which I still blame him, but we're stuck with him. So, but I'm like kind of back to your guys' point right there. I'm like, he did what everyone was kind of complaining, like the bottom of the order, the bullpen, the relief help, and this what's the name of this Royals guy? The
Barlow. Yeah,
the
Scott
hater,
Barlow.
It's Hater's lookalike, his little brother.
Yeah, some people are saying Clevenger, some people Hater.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah, I could see that, but hey, Clevenger's on a whole other level over there. But but like, hey, if these guys, like, we haven't, like you said, we haven't seen what G-Man Choi and Cooper can do, but isn't Cooper, he was an all-star last year, so they're bringing something to the table. G-Man Choi has that playoff experience with the Rays on those teams with Snell. So, if they just produce this guy, just what he hit a bomb in the Pirates series. So, if they just contribute a little, and then these guys, wake up, the bats are waking up on that the top of the order there. It's starting to look like, the same old Padres. They start off slow. I don't know if everyone's like, I'm an ex-Chargers fan, but sometimes the Chargers would start off super hot. They'd go undefeated, get the number 1 seed, and then flame out, where the Padres are the opposite. They're like kind of, these last couple of years, they kind of struggle for whatever reason. I'm thinking it's internal, but no one's going to say that. Like, no one's going to say, oh, these superstars are beefing with each other, or XYZ Bogarts and Machado are fighting for supremacy, like as the clubhouse leader, because Bogarts got the resume.
Yeah.
Machado's got the his stat resume. He's Gold Glove, yada yada yada. He's on pace for 500 homers, maybe. Well, they're both on pace for 3,000 hit. So, but I'm feeling like we're back, and I'm thinking, hey, the Dodgers don't scare me. And we got lucky there that with the Erod guy denied the trade because he prefers the East Coast. Man, that was like, wow. Like, if they got that guy, then I'd be kind of scared of the Dodgers. But it's the same old with the Dodgers. They're waiting on Ohtani, and they're gonna flame out Kershaw. He's gonna have something with his back, and they're gonna have to rely on those young dudes. Man, we're back. We just gotta. I'm not saying we're gonna sweep them, but I did say in the comments I smell a sweep. But hey, if we can make a statement, trim the fat off the lead of this wild card and the division lead. It looks like the Diamondbacks and the Giants are kind of coming back to reality a little, or at least where we could catch them. and it looks like we're getting hot or warm at the right time, and we'll see if this little additions kind of help us. But it looks like Preller's off the hook, and it's up to me. It's up to Bob Melvin to steer the ship in the right direction, and we'll see if he lives up to the billing where he's like, you know, where if he retires, was he got one more year on his contract?
Yeah,
Bob?
one more after this year.
Yeah. So hey, I'm cool. I'm not a Bob Melvin hater. I just feel like he could have done a little more, like kind of like Phil Jackson, some type of guru shit to, sorry for the language, like to get these guys a kumbaya and like, hey, put your egos to the side. And because I feel like that's what it was. Like Soto, don't you remember Soto kind of made a comment in the spring training, like something about we're worried about the money or something? Do you remember that?
I forget, or maybe was that like right before the WBC or something where they were
Something like
talking
that,
about
right? Remember? So he
contract
kind of
maybe.
he made like a little comment like that, and then he's made these like little like the all-star comments where he had to fly back with the Phillies.
Yeah.
So like I feel like it's all like not just him, maybe it's like Boris like giving him a script, like, hey, this is what you gotta say if you, because they probably have their exit strategy, like, hey, if this flames out, let's try to put the white flag out there. So hey, if you someone gives enough prospects, you can kind of get traded. But it looks like they're steering the ship in the right direction, and we'll just see if those additions. I like the way it feels different, right? It feels like kind of
For sure.
something feels different. But I want to leave it at that, and hopefully there's a little strong playoff push, and maybe we take 3 out of 4 with the Dodgers. Can I get that out of you?
Yeah, we can do
Well,
that. Yeah, I'm
well,
liking where, yeah, I agree with you about the Dodgers. Like the Dodgers are a
they
team
don't scare me,
that
right?
scare
They don't
me. Yeah,
scare
they
me.
don't scare me.
The
And
pitch-
I
and
think
it's always the pitching.
it's easier to convince myself
Yeah,
to say 3 out of 4 now with the additions that they have made.
yeah,
And they are playing better.
yeah.
Because forget me if I'm wrong, but
Well, we
the
were
last
playing
the
better.
last Dodger series,
Yeah,
they weren't playing that good.
yeah.
And
Oh, yeah. I give you that.
and
Yeah,
obviously it was early in the year and we were thinking like it's early, or at least I was, and having
yeah.
that
Everybody.
excuse.
Yeah,
But no, like it does feel like they're playing better. They have a better roster, I think, with these additions. And I think they're feeling good, obviously, going into this off day and then going into
yeah.
the series against the Dodgers. And yeah, I'm not thinking about the division. I don't think
I
that's
know.
going to happen.
I'm just thinking get in the playoffs, but I'm saying it's within reach.
Right.
If you get like super hot and because with the if you start counting right now, we got 20 games remaining with those top 3 the West guys, not counting the Rockies. And if you handle your business, you should be easily take the division. If you are what we say we are, we're like, superstar loaded team, and that's why I was like, how could they sell when Soto's in control? You're not. I don't think Soto's going to sign. It's going to be almost like I don't know, in the early '90s when we had Sheffield, McGriff, and shouts out to McGriff. I think he looks best in the Padres uniform, and he kind of went in incognito there with
Yeah, no hat,
team,
right? Yeah.
no team. So that's kind of like a shout out, I think, to the Padres maybe because he kind of contributed a little there where he was an all-star and everything. But I think it's Soto's. I think he's 2 and out. Like the 2.5 years we were getting with them, for some reason, I think it's almost like that Erod guy. For whatever reason, he prefers the East Coast. Like it's closer to I myself, and I'm Mexican and Puerto Rican, and when you're kind of close to your peoples, like I kind of get it. There's no Puerto Rican or Dominican culture on the West Coast, and when you're on that East Coast, it's like all day, every day. It's like whether you're New York City, Washington D.C., Miami, Florida.
Yeah, what I'd say with the Soto stuff, like
Yeah,
right now, if I had to give you an answer, do I think he comes back or not? I would say no. I
unless
think
we
part of
go
that,
two out of
I'm
two
not.
championships or something like crazy.
Yeah,
He's like,
I'm
oh,
not.
we're clicking.
Right, I'm not super bought into the fact that he
Yeah,
wants to be here.
yeah, right. Two
Um,
egos or something, whatever. I don't know what it
yeah,
is. Yeah,
yeah, and I think Peter Seidler is going to give him a competitive offer. Like he
yeah,
told, I think Marty Caswell, like right when they acquired him, he's
yeah,
not scared of the $500 million offer to
yeah.
Soto, to a player
And
like him.
he kind of had to work his way back into that talking space,
Right.
like because he kind of fell off for whatever people want to say. He's kind of getting. I think they mentioned it in the broadcast. I don't know if you heard that. Or maybe I had it on the Rockies. For whatever reason, I had it on the Rock because sometimes the visitors broadcast they give you more introspect little facts on the opposing team, and the Rockies suck. So the Rockies broadcasters, I think it was they said today was 161 and tomorrow's like a year from the date Soto was traded,
Yeah.
and he has 29 homers. He's like on that Soto track.
Yep.
So they were saying like
he's getting more comfortable for sure.
He's doing Soto things. So, but I don't know if he's super comfortable for whatever reason. Is it the superstars or the environment, or like I
And
said,
for
the West
yeah.
Coast culture kind of
for
like
for when he's done like this current contract, and he goes into free agency, because I don't see an extension happening. I think, I don't know if he wants to be here. That's one reason I'd say that I don't think he's going to come back.
Yep.
And the money, I mean, Steve Cohen, I don't know if you saw, but like they're gearing up for 2025, 2026.
2-3 years.
And so, I mean,
and that's
that
like
lines them up for Juan Soto, and
and
the Mets trending upwards, him being on the East Coast. It lines up for them going all in for Juan Soto. So maybe that's a little scary there.
Yeah.
And I think Peter, he's not going to, I mean, maybe he did it with Bogarts, and I guess you could say with Judge with the huge offer and Trey Turner, but is he going to go to the level that Steve Cohen might be willing to go with when Soto reaches free agency, or another team like the Giants or the Phillies or the Cubs or shoot the Dodgers, just throwing teams out there? Are they, maybe the Yankees? Is he going to be willing to go to that level? I'm not so sure. And we don't even know, the roster could look completely different, and there could be even more guys locked up to contracts. So it might even be harder by then. So we'll see. But I'm just happy that he's a Padre right now, because he is swinging the bat really well.
Hopefully we just get one championship, and I'm good with that. Like, so
I mean, that's why they did it. They did it to go win this year or last year or next year. So if they do it, then it's worth it for sure.
All right, guys. But I feel like we're coming back at it, and we're trending in the right directions. Well, we'll just see how these last 2 months kind of shape out to be. But it feels like old times, like we're getting hot in August, September.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's how it is. All right, Pedro, thanks so much, man.
All righty.
Have a good one. All right. Thank you so much for this super chat here from Justin. I hope we save some offense for the Dodgers. Yes, I hope so too. There have been some games. I mean, that goes back to the inconsistency of the Padres team so far this season, the big sample size that we do have, right? They have a huge game like this, 11 runs, or they score 19 runs combined in these two games against the Rockies. But then what do they do the next game? What do they do, just the next series overall? Do they crap the bed? Do they score one run and then they go back to score 7 runs? So, yeah, if this team is back, I think that they will have a good offensive series against the Dodgers. I think that's kind of how we know that this team is back. And I like the situation that the pitching is in. Obviously got some reinforcements there at the trade deadline. Probably we'll get to see Rich Hill at some point during this Dodgers series. So I think it comes down to the offense for the most part. But there's a lot of guys that are swinging the bat better. Crony is one of those guys. And I know people think that I'm too much of a Crony fan and I'm always going to back him, even though multiple times this season I have said, yeah, he has sucked. I mean, he has a 91 OPS plus entering today, 222 average, less than 10 home runs, less than 40 RBIs. His OPS is under 700. Like, it's definitely not good enough. But I will give him some love because I think he deserves it with the way that he has been hitting as of late. Entering today, he had 5 consecutive games with 2 hits, at least 2 hits. And if you go back since July 21st, that I think first game in Detroit, he's hitting 324 in his last 10 games. Small sample size, I know, but just looking for the positives, looking for the trends here. Guys are swinging the bat better. We know Manny had a tremendous month of July. We know Crony's swinging the bat a little bit better here as of late. Again, small sample size, but as of late. swinging the bat better. Actually, 342. Did I say 342? 342 is his average. Last 11 games, 10 games started entering today. So he's doing much better. 909 OPS in that time frame. Tatis, hopefully this series in Colorado, or this last game, I should say, will get him going, because he was in a slump there for the last couple weeks, it feels like. But Soto's swinging the bat well. Manny had a fire month of July. Crony better, and we'll see what these bats can give the Padres, G-Man Choi and Garrett Cooper. I'm interested in seeing Garrett Cooper and seeing what he can do, because obviously, I think Pedro mentioned it, he was an all-star last year in 2022 for the Marlins, and he has a lot of experience. He is in his last year of his contract with the Marlins, so he'll be a free agent at the end of the year, but that means that he does have the experience. Not a lot of winning baseball. He was a part of the 2020 Marlins postseason team, so we'll see how he performs in this environment, but he was already on that Marlins team that was in the playoff race before he was dealt. So I don't know how much of a difficulty it will be transitioning. I think he has family an hour away, is what he said to the Miami media yesterday after getting dealt. So I'm excited to see how he does. And obviously G-Man Choi. But I don't know, for some reason, Garrett Cooper just piques my interest a little bit more than G-Man Choi. And it's going to be interesting, because if Garrett Cooper starts to hit and Crony hits, do they move Kim to short and they have Bogarts not play sometimes? Because Manny's going to be at third. We know that, right? Or if Crony doesn't hit, Crony's going to sit the bench with Bogarts at short, Kim at second, and Cooper at first, with maybe Choi DHing. Or will they have Choi and Cooper just pretty much be the DHs? And when a righty's on the mound, Choi is getting the DH for the day. And when a lefty is on the mound, Cooper gets the DH, just based on the splits. Kind of like Carpenter, Cruz to start the year, even though that didn't work out for those guys. Maybe the Padres try to do that again, but with new guys that probably will, hopefully, keep fingers crossed, they will perform better than how Carpenter and Cruz did. All right. If you want to join the show, I know Matt was in there, but he left. So, Matt, if you want to come in, feel free. You can click that link that's pinned up at the top of the chat. Anyone here that wants to talk some Padres baseball. Thank you to Carter and Pedro for joining already. Just going through the chat here. Already covered Devin's comment there on Sanchez. Matt says, Ben, this is destiny calling. Now I'm more convinced than ever the Braves will be a minor speed bump in the playoffs. Yes, I think the Braves, they're the best team in the National League. Probably the best team in baseball. So yes, they will be tough. I think if we end up having to face the Dodgers in a postseason series, I think that will be tough. I think this series this weekend will be tough. But based on, maybe I'm letting this series, persuade my judgment too much, but I'm more confident in this team now based on these last couple games. And maybe it's because of the new additions as well. But I don't think the Padres, at least I'm not, and I'm not playing, so it doesn't matter, but I'm not scared of the Dodgers going into this series, And just like that Dodger-Padres series in the postseason, the Padres weren't scared of the Dodgers going in because they were playing really good baseball. So maybe they have the same feeling here. It's a regular season series, but it feels more than that, because if the Padres have a terrible series, right, they lose 3 out of 4, that could really hurt. They could find themselves 6 games back, right? After being 4 games back, 1 game under 500, they lose 3 out of 4, now you're 3 games under 500, more time ticking closer to the end of the regular season, losing ground. So it's an important series for sure. D-Mobile says, yo, Ben, how are we feeling about Barlow? I feel like that's the best move made. I think it has the potential to be, because Choi and Cooper, maybe they don't play every day. Barlow, he might not play. He's probably not going to pitch every day, right? Like, he does need rest. But this could be huge, because it's not just this year. Those other moves, those guys are free agents at the end of the year. Barlow could really help for next year as well, with probably Hader being gone. And he can help extend the bullpen, maybe put a little bit less pressure on other guys in the bullpen, put less pressure on starters to feel like they have to go 7 innings, right? Because they have an extra guy that has closing experience in that bullpen. I see Matt in here, so I just want to get to him. I know I had him waiting. So, Matt, what's up, man?
Hey, man, I'm just calling to clarify my comment. I said the Braves would be a minor speed bump on our way to the World Series. And I'm not worried about the Braves anymore either. It's already over. It's destiny. It's over.
Destiny.
We're already there now. Now I know why they showed no urgency early on. Now I don't feel any urgency because I already know they're in. It may only take 85 wins now with the garbage ahead of them. But once they're in, it's already over. And you lay off a Carpenter, will you? What did he ever do to you? Look,
he's hitting 160 something.
Hey, but they're keeping him for a reason. If you remember back in I know you do, back in very early April, he fucking cranked one off of Spencer Strider. I think the exit velo might have been 300 miles an hour.
Okay.
And
they're saving him for the postseason to face Spencer Strider. That's exactly why.
Wait a minute. Eddie Rosario for the Braves was a scrub the whole year, and he carried them in 2021. Carried them into that. He only needs one at bat, and then you'll change it just like Grisham last year in the wild card. He only needs one at bat. I mean, you're awful hard on him. Even I'm not that negative. And
he's Austin Nola from the left side. How can I be soft on the guy?
Because Austin Nola could never turn Spencer Strider around.
Well,
Austin Nola can't even hit a baseball. I don't even think he could hit one off a tee.
He just had a walk-off single with El Paso. You see that?
Oh, then he might be ready for the big show again. Hey, look, man, I just called because seriously for the bullpen. I get jacked for that Royals bullpen, and to get the Royals bullpen guy to form a Royals bullpen, that showed me everything I need. I mean, if the epiphany had already hit me, but that was the final one. That's it. It's over. It's Herrera. It's those guys I listed: Hochevar, Herrera, Wade Davis, and Holland. Wilson, Barlow, Suarez, Hader. God,
I love it. Yeah, it sounds great.
5 and dive, baby. 5 and dive.
What I don't love is Matt Carpenter being on the roster still.
Oh,
when they have no outfielders on the bench.
Okay. That's a fair point. Last question. You think they took Musgrove out because they looked at the calendar and they're already setting up the playoff scheduling so he can start game one? I mean,
okay. That has Bob Nightingale vibes all over it. Did you see him? I don't know if you're on Twitter, but he said that the Twins clinched their division already because even though they don't have a great record, the other teams were selling off pieces at the deadline. They were the only team that stood pat. So they've already clinched the division, according to him. So I don't like getting into that. I mean, we still got 2 months here. Like, let's chillax here.
Yeah, you're way too negative, man. I can't believe that. I mean, last time you and I, when we bet, it was Brady Singer on the mound for the Royals against everything's changed. They finally did all the moves. They finally got rid of the Nola. The only one, I don't know. The Avila thing worries me a little because it could be because they didn't send him down because you got to leave a guy down for 10 days, I think.
Oh,
so that actually does worry me a little that maybe Musgrove isn't right. I was kidding about the thing, but I'm not kidding about. I mean, I'm like the last guy said, Pedro, whatever. I mean, he's all in, he's all back. I'm all in, I'm all back. I don't give a shit. It's like I said, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And it feels different. I know you're guarded. I could tell by your post-game reaction, even you were still guarded. And I get it. But I was on the other side. Now we flipped, and then maybe we'll flip back. Maybe not. But goddamn, I want to see Carpenter hit one in the playoffs so bad. Oh, I will be on hold for 6 hours the night he hits that in the playoffs, waiting to talk to you.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I hope he does, because hopefully that means that the Padres win that game.
That's mustache on mustache crime too, off of Strider.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, one game under 500, Matt. You're really close to giving that 50.
I've already admitted that. That's already over.
All right.
I'm just not going to jinx it yet, but it's over. I mean, it's over. That thing's over. I mean, I'm ready to bet on whether or not you think we're going to win next year's World Series too.
Okay.
I mean,
Oh,
I'm
boy.
already there. I don't even care what happens now. We've finally got that bullpen. Oh God, I love it. I love it. Anyway,
I love your excitement. I love your excitement.
keep up the good work, brother.
All
I
right, thank you so
appreciate
much.
it. I always watch it or listen to it later. If I can't do it live, I always listen to it later. I appreciate you.
Yep. All right, see ya. When the Padres are over 500, I'm gonna have Matt. I'll give him my PayPal or Venmo, or whatever, and he's gonna give me that money. Because we made that bet when I believed in the team and he didn't, and now we've kind of switched spots, and so I'm gonna benefit on how I used to be optimistic about this team and that they're gonna turn it around, and now I'm sitting on the other side where it's like I don't think they're going all the way, but I'm still gonna get the money from it, and hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully they do end up going all the way, and I don't really hope Matt Carpenter hits the home run because I don't want him on the roster, but you get what I'm saying. Hopefully, G-Man Choi hits a home run in the postseason and they end up, winning that game, and maybe that sends the Padres into the World Series or something, like the Bryce home run against Suarez last year for the Phillies. All right, if you want to join the show like Matt just did, he cracks me up. You can click the link that's pinned up at the top of the chat. Just looking on social media here, Steve Cohen speaking to the media. I'm glad Peter Seidler's not in that spot, selling off. What if he had to, I kind of would be lying if I said I'm glad that he's not in that spot because I wanted Hader and Snell to be gone. But Verlander and Scherzer, those were two different situations. Like, I think my point was stronger on that than if I would have advocated for like Verlander and Scherzer to be traded if this was like a Mets channel, because Verlander and Scherzer, like the message from the Mets trying to win before what we now know, like they're not trying to until 25, 26. Those guys still had another year, where Hader and Snell season didn't seem like it was going anywhere. And this was like a week ago. Didn't seem like it was going anywhere. They're the best pitchers available on the market. If they were made available, go get something back. Like, don't make this year worse, right? I thought, it's not like I was saying trade those guys with one more year additional of control like Juan Soto has. Notice I didn't say trade Juan Soto. So I still am in that camp, but man, I do want to buy into the team for sure. I do want to believe. I want to believe that this team can go all the way. I'm just not going to do that yet. I got to see a bigger sample size. Devin says, Mets are an absolute disgrace. Yes, going off topic, but I believe the Padres are the better team than the Mets. Well, they are. Yeah, for sure. At least the Padres had some of the expected stuff. They had the run differential in their favor. While the Mets, they were just a bad team. Matt in the comments here. I'm just reading these because I'm behind by like an hour on these comments. So if you want to make sure I get to your comment or your question, use that super chat button, please. Or you can join the show by clicking that link that's pinned up at the top of the chat. The super chat makes it very easy for me to see your comment, your question, and it supports the channel. Matt asks, is it too early to talk about repeating his World Series champs? Yeah, I think he mentioned that when he was on here. Yes, it's too early, Matt. Let's make the postseason this year first, okay? Yeah, Musgrove, I'm seeing in the chat here. Yeah, Musgrove probably pitching in the Seattle series. Maybe the first game of the Seattle series. Barlow has some interesting slides for sure. Yeah. What was it? A fish? I think they were fish. That's what I have it on Twitter, so I'll bring it up here. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. If he keeps pitching like this, like he did today, where are those? They better make a Padre giveaway of these. Look at this. Sorry for the podcast audience, but yeah, these are Scott Barlow's. This was his footwear today, worn in the Padres clubhouse. He's wearing fish on his feet. They should put a Padre logo on there, sell them in the team store, or use that as like another one of their theme game giveaways. If Barlow starts like dominating, I think that would be, they like capitalize on the chain there for 2021, even though that didn't work out well. They've capitalized on some of those things. Hey, why not capitalize on this? We'll see what happens there. But yeah, that was definitely unexpected to see that pop up on the TV today for sure. Mills says typical Padres acquire new relievers and still use Garcia. Well, it was a 10-run game. They won by 10 runs. He didn't give up a run today at the end of the day. And yeah, you're going to use Garcia there. If he gives up a grand slam, guess what? You're up by 6. Then you can go to someone else. Like, yeah, you use Luis Garcia there. That's who you use. I agree, Brent. Why is Carpenter still here? Maybe they are waiting for that big clutch postseason home run. Have him come off the bench. Be like Kurt Gibson. Devin asks, are you worried about Tatis? I feel like he's getting very unlucky. No, I mean, well, if he's getting unlucky, then no, I'm not worried because he's hitting the ball hard. He just homered today, 100th home run. No, I'm not worried about him. And there's slumps that happen throughout the season. Before that slump, he was one of the best Padres players, you know. And he still is this season. If I go to Baseball Reference here, Baseball Reference, you know how it brings up the top players? Tatis is 3rd in WAR. This is before today's game. And Tatis homered today, so his WAR is definitely improved from that. Maybe it's at like a 4 WAR now. We'll see. But yeah, Kim's at 5.3, Soto's at 4.4, and Tatis is at 3.8. So no, I'm not worried about him. And he's 3rd best on the team in WAR, and he missed the first 20 games of the season. He's playing like every day. He's playing good outfield. I'm not worried about him. Boogeyman says, stop being so negative. Negative mindset you have. Well, I mean, come on. I don't think you can give me a ton of crap for that when at the beginning of the year, I was optimistic. I kept being optimistic. Even when the team was showing who they were, I said, they'll turn it around. I still believe in the talent. They're not going to continue playing like this. But the big sample size came and they kept playing like it. So I changed. And so I'm going to keep that until I see a big sample size, a significant sample size of them playing like we expected them to play going into the season. So I think I'm not just day one, or today negative or positive, tomorrow negative, next day positive. Like I'm consistent for a stretch of time when I see that sample size. So you can be, I'm not going to blame you for being positive. After the deadline, they improved the team, have a good last couple games against the Rockies. Like, be positive for sure. And I'm positive off of this series, but I'm just, when I'm looking at the thing from like the grand view, the whole view, I don't think that this team's going to go all the way. They've got to prove me wrong, or they've got to, again, have a bigger sample size. Daniel asked, couldn't Cooper play right field? Yes, he can play right field, but I think he's normally just DH or first base. I'm talking about okay, so they brought in Cooper, they brought in Choi, who can do the same thing but better that Matt Carpenter does, right? And what Matt Carpenter's doing, I could go do. Just sit on the bench and watch baseball. You get paid millions of dollars to do it. Sign me up for that. You get all the first class stuff, great food probably. Yeah, sign me up for that. Stretch, maybe hit off the tee a little bit during the game. Take batting practice on a Major League Baseball field. We could do that. So I'm saying bring in an actual guy. It could be Ben Gamel. It could be Jose Azocar. It could be Taylor Colway. Bring up someone that can be the 4th outfielder. Not be someone that's really a DH first baseman that can play the outfield if you need him to, Yeah, that might be why it needed 40-man roster spot. That's why Honeywell was DFA'd. But I guess, so they did have to DFA someone. Okay, so maybe it was down to Honeywell and Garcia because they didn't want to DFA Pedro Avila. If that's the case, then that does make a little more sense there, Mr. Felimex. Just going through the chat here. Yeah, Charlie asked, why do we DFA Cruz and not DFA Carpenter? Carpenter has the bigger contract, and Cruz was like exclusively a DH, where Carpenter, if you need him to, he can go play some first base. I think they gave a longer leash to Carpenter because he wasn't signed to a 1-year, $1 million deal like Nelly was. And he's a little bit younger. Not a lot. He's like 37, but Cruz was 42. And the Padres just brought in a 43-year-old. Steven says Alfaro now and then would get clutch hits, but overall he wasn't a consistent hitter and not the greatest catcher. Choi can play first okay, but injury prone and low batting average. Did someone comment on Alfaro, like wanting to have Jorge Alfaro? Because I think he was just DFA'd, I think by the Red Sox. Could be wrong on that. I think by the Red Sox. But I don't think he fits. I mean, they have Campy, they have Gary at the big league level, they have Sullivan, they have Nola. I don't know if they have Webster Rivas still in the system, but they have options. I think they have plenty of options at the catching position. I'm fine with it. I don't think you need to bring in Jorge Alfaro. And it's not like he'd be on the big league roster right now. Dylan says, oh, this is... this entire chat has more WAR than Matt Carpenter does this year. Yikes. I mean, it's true, I think. Let me double check. Just to be fair to Matt Carpenter. Yeah, negative 0.6 WAR. So, yeah, you have a 0 WAR. We have a higher WAR. All of us. We all have a higher WAR than Matt Carpenter does this year for the San Diego Padres. And he's still on the roster when the Padres could use another outfielder to, be the fourth outfielder. All right, quick break, and then I'll get to some San Diego sports stuff and the rest of the chat. I want to tell you about the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. It's Underdog Fantasy. They have great pick'em games and best ball tournaments. In pickup games, just pick higher or lower on 2 to 5 players' stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. You can go cross-team, cross-league, and even cross-sport. Best ball revolves around the draft, which is what every fan loves the most about fantasy, and it eliminates the hassle of having to manage your roster all season long, resulting in a fun and easy fantasy product. How does it work exactly? You enter a contest where you participate in a snake draft against other users. That lineup that you drafted competes against every other draft in the entire contest. The better the combined performance of your team, the more money you win. After your lineup is all played, Underdog will take the best performing players and automatically set them as your starting lineup. That's it. No waivers, no trades, no worrying about who to start or sit. After you complete your draft, your part is done. Underdog Fantasy offers best ball in a variety of ways, including daily contests, weekly contests, playoff contests, and season-long contests. You can either enter into these and compete against thousands of other entrants for huge prizes, or, if you'd like, you can enter into a private draft with friends and family to compete for a smaller prize pool. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Sign up now by clicking the link in the description or by using the promo code TALKINGFRIARS, and you'll double your first deposit up to $100 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit of $10 or more. So if you deposit $100, you get $100 free. If you deposit $10, you get $10 free. Okay, so getting to some San Diego sports stuff, I'll get back to the chat here. The San Diego Loyal, just teeing up what's going to happen this weekend. San Diego Loyal, they host Orange County on Saturday at home at Torero Stadium at 7 p.m. San Diego Wave, they are playing a few hours before that. They host Angel City Saturday, August 5th at 4:30 p.m. I think this is the last Challenge Cup match for the San Diego Wave, and then August 19th against Gotham at home as well. They will resume the regular season play. And at the same time on Saturday, Padres and Dodgers will be happening. Or, when the, I believe, second half of the Wave match is happening. So LA teams coming to San Diego, or Southern California teams, I guess I should say, coming to San Diego. So it should be a fun weekend. Padres, Dodgers, Loyal playing on Saturday, Wave playing on Saturday, U.S. Women's National Team, they play on Sunday morning at like 2 a.m., so I'll be up for that one. And let's just I'll do a quick preview here of the Padres and Dodgers series. The Dodgers, it's going to be a tough test. I don't think that, I know I said that I'm not scared of the Dodgers, and maybe I'm just being swayed based on these last couple games and the additions that the Padres made. But I don't know. That's just the way that I feel. I'm not scared of the Dodgers coming in here. Maybe it's because I believe they're a less talented team than they were last season in the regular season when they came to town. But the Dodgers, they're still a really good baseball team. Okay. Like, I want to get that straight. They're 60-45. They have a plus 92 run differential. The Padres have a plus 75 run differential. Padres are 1 game under 500, 4 games back of a playoff spot, while the Dodgers, 15 games over 500, comfortably in a playoff spot. So there's differences between this Padres and Dodgers teams, right? Dodgers, they did make some additions at the trade deadline. They acquired Lance Lynn, Ryan Yarbrough, Kike Hernandez. They brought him back. They brought back Joe Kelly as well. I believe that was in that Lance Lynn deal. Could be forgetting some other moves that they made. But they did, it seemed like the Padres kind of acquire more depth, improve a little bit on the margins. They're not a team that is like going all in on this season, right? They didn't make like a Max Scherzer trade like they did in 2021 where they acquired Max and Trey Turner. They didn't do that. Obviously, going into the season, they were not putting their full effort towards winning this year. They're saving money for Ohtani, right? They think that they can land Ohtani. They're probably going to give him the best offer, or definitely one of the best offers. And maybe they land him, maybe they don't. So while this team, I think talent-wise, took a step back this season, they're still finding a way to win games. As I'm saying this, they're 5-5 in their last 10. On the road, they're 3 games over 500, 28-25. They have 1 more game against the Oakland A's, and then they head to San Diego to face the Padres, and this is a big series for the Padres. Because if they lose 3 out of 4, it's not a 3-game series. If they lose 3 out of 4 here, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, then they're just digging themselves a bigger hole after starting to dig out of that hole. They're 1 game under 500. They could be 3 games under by the end of this weekend, or they could be over 500 by the end of this weekend. So it's going to be pivotal. I'm not thinking about the division, the NL West. I'm thinking about the wild card, obviously. Keeping ground where they are. If they split this series, obviously you hope for 3 out of 4 based on where they are. Like, you need wins. But splitting would not be the end of the world because they're not falling deeper under 500, if that makes sense. And the Dodgers, they're a better team than the Padres are. Like, that's just the facts. That's the numbers. That's the record. It just is what it is. So I think it's going to be a competitive series. I think the pitching matchups some of the pitching matchups are out. So again, it's a weird Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday series. It's not just a 3-game series. It's 4. And the pitching matchup for Friday, don't know. I think Bobby Miller is the guy that the Padres broadcast put in there against Yu Darvish on Friday. That's at 6:40. On Saturday, Blake Snow on the mound for the Padres. On Sunday, don't know. Maybe it's Rich Hill, or maybe it's Rich Hill on Monday. MLB has Seth Lugo slated in on Monday. So the Padres have a spot open on Sunday. So they could go with Rich Hill on Sunday to make his Padres debut. Lugo pitched pretty well his last time out, obviously, going, I think, 7 innings against the Rockies. And Snell, obviously, I think he's the best starting pitcher in Major League Baseball right now. So they're going to have a good opportunity here to at least split. I think they're going to have a good opportunity to take 3 out of 4. I don't expect the Padres to blow out the Dodgers in any game. I think they're going to be close. And I think we got to accept a split if that's what happens, because the Dodgers, they're a really good team, and you never know what the heck happens in these Padre-Dodger series. But hoping they take 3 out of 4. 4 out of 4, I respect the Dodgers too much to, even though I hate them, I respect them too much to say, oh no, sweep on the table, 4-game sweep on the table. Padres haven't won 4 games in a row all season long. So I'm not going to act like, oh, they're going to go win 4 in a row. I don't see that happening at all. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be packed all series long. Even the Monday day game, there's that straw hat giveaway. Sure, it'll be packed there. And hopefully the Padres can build off of these last couple of games against the Colorado Rockies, where they combined for 19 runs. I'll say it again, 19 runs in 2 games. Can they continue that? That's going to be big here in this series. Hopefully they feed off the fans' energy as well. And hopefully the stadium doesn't get taken over by Dodger fans. Hopefully Padre fans will show up just like they have continued to show up, even when this Padres team maybe doesn't deserve to have sold out crowds every night, even on a random Tuesday night, right? They continue to show up though. So I think they will this weekend. It's going to be a fun weekend. It's the LA at San Diego rivalry weekend with the Padres and with the Wave taking on Angel City. All right, let's get to the rest of the comments here. Where did I leave off? Oh, the Alfaro thing, right? No, Dylan's saying this entire chat has more WAR than Matt Carpenter this year. Pedro says Benito Santiago should be in the Padres Hall of Fame. Steven says Benito Santiago was by far the best catcher the Padres ever had. Terry Kennedy probably second. Sanchez, if he stays a Padre and he continues playing like this, he will be in that conversation because I think he's playing pretty darn well with the Padres. And it's not a high, again, like I said earlier, it's not like Yadi Molina that he has to compete with. And it's like, or Pudge Rodriguez or Johnny Bench, where it's like, yeah, you're not going to get there. Sorry, dude. Right? Like, it's pretty easy to pass Austin Hedges and Nick Hundley. No disrespect to Nick Hundley or Austin Hedges. Like, I know they tried with the Padres, but come on, let's just face it. Or Rene Rivera or Yasmani Grandal before he went to the Dodgers and started like playing probably up to his potential, playing better with the Dodgers than he did with the Padres. He can be better than those guys. He's going to have a track record, multiple years with the Padres of playing like this. And we don't even know if he's going to be a Padre at the end of this season. So I don't even want to get into that discussion. Okay. Anything else here? Nothing that comes to mind. I think that'll do it. Talking Friars episode 437. Thank you so much for the time, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Off day tomorrow. Dodger series coming up this weekend. Should be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching or listening. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're listening on the podcast platforms. If you want to watch, be a part of the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on those notifications. If you're on YouTube, I encourage you to do so as well. Again, thank you for the support. I love communicating, interacting with Padres fans. Today was a great show. Thank you so much. Have a good one.